Biodiversity is a term that represents the total variety of all life on Earth. That's a big thing to sum up. Thousands of different wild habitats, millions of different species, billions of different individuals, and the trillions of different characteristics they all have. The total biodiversity of our planet is immense, which is a good thing, because the more biodiversity, the more secure all life on Earth is, including ourselves. Only when life is at its most varied, vigorous, biodiverse, can we hope to thrive. We may not know it, but we need towering forests across 1/3 of the land surface to lock away carbon and keep the climate stable. We need millions of pollinators and billions of soil organisms and megatons of plankton to keep the food we eat in supply. We need strange plants deep in jungles to create our medicines, and coral reefs and mangrove swamps to protect the coasts we depend upon. Our planet's biodiversity provides all the things we need for free. But it will only do so if there's lots of it, and at the moment it's under attack.
Types. Ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity. Species diversity. Ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity deals with the variations in ecosystems within a geographical location and its overall impact on human existence and the environment. Ecological diversity is a type of biodiversity. It is the variation in the ecosystems found in a region or the variation in ecosystems over the whole planet. An example of ecological diversity on a global scale would be the variation in ecosystems, such as deserts, forests, grasslands, wetlands, and oceans. Ecological diversity is the largest scale of biodiversity, and within each ecosystem, there is a great deal of both species and genetic diversity. Species diversity. Species diversity is defined as the number of different species present in an ecosystem and relative abundance of each of those species. Diversity is greatest when all the species present are equally abundant in the area. Genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is the total number of genetic characteristics in the genetic makeup of a species. It is distinguished from genetic variability, which describes the tendency of genetic characteristics to vary.
Specific mix of chemicals and DDT also thin the shells of bird eggs, causing embryos not to fully develop and die as a result.
Are adapted to their environment and have specific temperatures and conditions they can live in. If temperatures change faster than organisms can adapt, then they must relocate and adapt to a more who are already living in fragmented habitats. They may not be able to move to a suitable habitat where their temperatures have steadily increased from around 1970 up until now. Studies have shown a very close link between human activities such as burning fossil fuels to be one of the biggest causes of global warming, where over 50% or more of our planet's species will face extinction. This will drastically decrease biodiversity.
One way to improve biodiversity is with breeding programs, which are often set up for endangered species, to reduce the chance that they'll go extinct. These generally involve breeding the animals in captivity so that we can safely build up their numbers, and hopefully at some point reintroduce them to the wild, where they could either join an existing population or form a new one. One of the problems with breeding programs, though, is that unless the natural habitat that they came from is safe, then the endangered species population will probably just decline again. So another important solution is creating protected areas and regenerating rare habitats, like mangroves and coral reefs. The hope is that if these areas are protected properly, then we won't even need the breeding programs in the first place, because all of the organisms living there will be safe. An important part of wildlife conservation is reducing the impact of harmful but necessary practices, like farming, which we of course have to do if we want to eat. And governments often help with this by introducing new laws or paying farmers to do the right thing. For example, if we take a look at this field, we can see a field margin, which is a narrow strip all the way around the field in which anything can grow, and also a hedgerow, which is made up of shrubs and trees and acts like a border all the way around the field. Both of these practices are being encouraged by the government in an effort to increase biodiversity, which they can do by providing different habitats and food sources to the crops that are being grown in the field. And so a greater range of different species can live there. Governments actually regulate loads of things. For example, they often set quotas on how much deforestation is allowed each year, and how much carbon dioxide can be released into the atmosphere by businesses. Often though, making a difference is up to us as individuals. If we choose to recycle our waste rather than putting it in the bin, and we don't buy so much junk that we don't need, then there'll be less waste in landfill sites. And this is good for two reasons. For one, there'll be more land left undamaged. And for two, there'll be fewer toxic chemicals that can eke their way into the environment. Now, this all makes it sound quite simple. Surely we can just do more of this stuff and fix all these environmental problems that we have. Theoretically, we could. All of the problems mentioned are fixable. In practice, though, there's a whole bunch of things that get in the way. A big one is money. Protecting biodiversity is expensive, and individuals, companies, and governments often overlook just how they benefit from high biodiversity, and so they generally prefer to use their limited money elsewhere. Another issue is that in order to maintain our current high standard of living, we need to damage the environment. For example, we have to use fertilizers and pesticides in order to grow enough food for everyone. And we have to dig huge mines so that we can get to the rare metals that we need for our phones and computers. In developing countries, things are a bit different. People there often rely on the environment for their very livelihood. For example, when they cut down forests, it's often to build their homes, have enough firewood to cook their food, or clear enough land to grow a few crops.